got made fun of. I got bullied. I got beat up. And so not only was I dealing with a language barrier, but I was also being an outcast, a foreigner in the United States, trying to fit in the streets of LA into a school in LA where I just didn't find a place where I could feel safe and at a home. And being a product of my own environment, because I didn't know any better, I didn't have those mental tools to make better decisions, I ended up taking the street gang drug route for several years.
Welcome, guys, to the Wealth Creators Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is JJ. How's it going, JJ?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much, Rowell, for having me here. I'm excited, to add value to you, your community, your podcast, and get to know you and share a little bit about my story.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said before, prior to this, before we started recording, we're just gonna have a conversation because that's what these are. Obviously, we're gonna be giving value to the audience and for people who want to get started in entrepreneurship world. I'll ask you some questions, and I think most of it is just really from your story, because a lot of people they want to get started, they just don't know what to do or how to get started, or they have these blocks that stop them. And I feel like the best way for people to learn is from hearing other people's stories, because that's how I personally learned. So I just wanted to share that with my community, your story. I feel like it's going to be a real good one, a real doozy. I feel like, there's a lot, but let's just get into it. So I guess first question is, what do you do right now? Just so people
know. So right now I do confidence and high performance coaching. So I help people reinvent their life, create new identities, and get to where they want to be a lot faster with less hiccups and financial stress. A lot of people, especially from the pandemic, saw that we were put all on the same level, across the globe. And a lot of people that, work for different companies from the employee mindset, lost their jobs and were put into a financial stressful situation to where they started thinking about, is this it? Is this all that life has to offer? And I've specialized in my life from personal experience on what it takes to reinvent yourself and to go from one thing and completely change directions and still be successful in something else that you really don't have a lot of experience or expertise in. And so I concentrated on helping people build that confidence, the mindset, the infrastructure that it takes to truly lead by your heart and achieve success within whatever you want to go into, whether it be entrepreneurship or a different career path.
Mm-hmm. And so I know that, and that's so awesome to hear that, that you help people in that space. And so, like, who would be like your target audience? Is it generally entrepreneurs? It doesn't have to be.
So it doesn't have to be generally entrepreneurs, but a lot of people that I've been working for from my personal coaching is employees that want to get out of their 9-to-5, that want to transition and get what they do with a passion and a purpose and make that into a business. So a lot of people only do what they do and work a 9-to-5 because they're either good at it, they've done it for a long time, or that's what brings them certainty, and that's what brings them their income, but it isn't necessarily their passion or what they actually thrive to get up out of bed to go do. So I help them understand where it is that their superpower is, what they could potentially do, and how we can use their talents, their expertise, right, and their experience and create a business out of that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the one thing that I say, so I guess to sum it all up, do you help people turn their passion into profits?
Yeah, pretty much, without taking your tagline. Yeah, pretty much. So we're definitely in alignment with that. For the most part, a lot of the people that I deal with a lot of limiting beliefs, confidence issues. I deal with a lot of introverted people that don't know how to put themselves out there or suffer in silence by being wallpaper in their own life and in their own business. And they stand behind those that are shining, only wishing they could be the star. I help them become the star.
Got it. And so, I hear this word a lot. And so a question I like to ask people is like, I hear the word like limiting belief. So to like break it down for people, because I think people can get it, have an understanding of what it might mean. But to you, what do you think a limiting belief is?
I believe for me and my understanding is anything that I truly believe, whether it was something I created or something that was implemented by my conditioning, my surrounding, my environment, whatever the case may be, is something that does not serve me and my greater purpose to achieve whatever goal and desire I have for myself.
Wow, that's the best definition I've ever heard. Right?
Because a limiting belief could be anything, like I could want to be an NBA basketball player, but I can't, shoot a basketball to save my life. I could, somebody could say, well, that's a limiting belief. I'm like, no, that's a fact. I can't shoot to save my life.
Yeah.
But my limiting belief would be based around that if I work hard enough, doesn't matter, excuse me, if it doesn't matter how hard I work, I'm still not going to get good. That's a limiting belief because I don't know that. I've never tested it, I've never tried it.
Mhm.
So it's basically saying that whatever I believe is holding me back and preventing me from either trying something, achieving something, or testing if something works for me.
Yeah, and this is what I heard. I think this was from, I don't know who it was from, but they said like usually your beliefs are, these are beliefs is not something you're born with. Beliefs is something that you learn from other people. Like it's from
Yeah.
your conditioning, it's from your environment, it's from how you grew up. Is that right? Or what's?
Yeah, it's 100% true. I mean, you think of it this way, at the most primal base level, every baby that you've ever come across, we were all babies at one point in time. They're fearless, right? They'll stick their fingers in everything, including a light socket. They'll put anything in their mouth. They'll jump out of anything. They don't have any belief, good or bad. They are just curious. Our parents or those who are taking care of us or bringing us up in the world, instill their belief system in us. So we don't know fear until it's told to us, or unless we experience something that might cause pain or might cause pleasure. And now we are basing our belief based on that. So everything that we know, all of our thoughts aren't truly our own. They're just generational that are imprinted in our DNA, is what I've come to understand, believe. This is my belief system,
Yeah.
and this is what I help teach other people to understand, that, we don't often stop to wonder or to think or look inside ourselves and say, when did I put this belief on me? Where did I learn it from? And how long have I had it? And is it still true to who I am now if I'm constantly evolving?
Yeah, wow, that's so powerful. And like you said before, like a lot of times people like to like take their beliefs and like view it as a fact. Like this is just who I am. Right. When
Yep.
that's not necessarily the case, because you're change as humans, we're always changing, we're always evolving. Like, yeah, like you said, right now, maybe you can't shoot a basketball for your life, but the limiting belief is like if you practice, you can get better.
Yeah,
And you could, right? So
absolutely.
right. And so I know we had a chat on Instagram. We were talking about like, we a lot of the things, we know we're Tony people, right? And is a lot of the personal development stuff you've learned from, is it from Tony, or where else have you learned all these things from experience, of course, as well, a little bit?
Of course. I love that question because, it wasn't until I got into the Tony Robbins world that I really started learning the vocabulary and strategies and tactics and techniques to understand what it was that I was already doing and how to do it better and how to do more of that. When I really think of my life from, living in Bogota, Colombia, in South America, coming to the States, and in the last, 43 plus years of my life, I realized that I was always in personal development. I didn't really recognize what personal development was.
Mhm.
I was always the black sheep of the family. I was always going against the grain because I believed and I saw the belief systems around me from not only a family or a cultural environment, but also from a societal and from an environment perspective. And I realized that I didn't want none of that. And I was always constantly improving. Like Tony always talks about, can I constantly and never ending improvement. I was always doing that, but I didn't know exactly how to verbalize it. I didn't really recognize the things that I was doing until I got into the Tony world and I started learning the vocabulary from a psychology standpoint. And I started saying, oh, I get it. That's why I do this. Well, oh, now I know this. I can do it better because now I have this technique, or that technique is going to help me improve in this part of my life. But technically, I've always been into personally developing myself to become a better human, because in my gut, and I believe that, regardless of whatever anybody believes, my personal belief is my universe, my God, what I call my God, right? I believe that God puts a gift in all of us. And it is our job and our life's mission to discover what that gift is prior to us departing this world. Not everybody reaches that goal. And I believe that my gift was truly to always improve not only my life, but the life of those around me. And so now I just have a vocabulary, and now I have Tony as one of my main mentors amongst other people that help me really understand what it is that I do, how to do it better, and how to help other people transition and transform their lives.
Wow. When you said like you've always done it, it's just you never understood the vocabulary. I actually got goosebumps because I'm like, man, that was me too. Like I was always in this personal development world, even as a kid. Like you said, the black sheep, but bro, that's how I felt like my whole life. Like it's like, how come no one like thinks the same way I think? How come like people like think that this is it and like it's always just this way? And so I always felt like the black sheep as well. And it's crazy. And also same thing for me. Only when I got to the Tony world that I started to hear the vocabulary. I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been doing. I just never knew I was doing it, right?
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's one of those things where you recognize that you think differently, that you want different things, that you can, it's easy to look around and say, I'm cool with this life, and we should always appreciate and express gratitude for where we're at. But at the same token, and the other side of the coin is that you should always want to keep evolving and having more. It's not about not having enough. Happiness is evolving in the happiness that is around you, because we're constantly evolving with the world, life, people, family, friendships, and so at a very young age, like I started coaching without knowing that this is what I was doing. I came up in the entertainment industry, and as an entertainer, as a dancer, a street dancer, I built my first program with a dance crew, but I call it a program because we were designing the program to help people live better, to stay out of drugs, right? But we just used dance as the vehicle to make that happen. And we created a culture around that. And I did that at 11 years old. So my first coaching program, as helping other people live better, was at 11 years old. What kind of 11-year-old do you know that is interested in making sure that other people are living better than they are at 11?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know any.
Right. So it was one of those things that like I always was all about personal development, but it really wasn't until I was introduced and exposed to the Tony world several years ago, where it was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is my people. Here are all the rest of the black sheeps of the world. I'm at home.
Yeah, home with the black sheeps. That's so crazy. Because your vehicle of helping others was like through dance, right?
Yes.
Right. And so I feel like I was similar, maybe not to that extent, but like because me growing up, I always played basketball, and basketball for me, like played in the hood, basically, right? The hood where we are in Toronto, and that was basketball for us, right? Basketball was our way to get us stay away from trouble, to just this is just this community, just to have fun, just to play sports, to play something, to be connected through just one thing. And so that's what it felt like. I wouldn't say I never created a program to help people, but that was like my community growing up, at least for myself, right? But going back to you, right? Because I never asked you the question. So you, like, I think from what you said, you came from South America, or
from Bogota, Colombia.
Okay, came from Colombia. Okay, so you came from Colombia, and immigrated here when you were
10 years old.
10 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
So you immigrated here 10 years old. And I guess like what was it growing up? Um, was there a language barrier or what was
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's very little things that I remember about my life in South America besides like the abusive upbringing and home that I came up from. I don't get me wrong, I love my family, I cherish them. It just so happened that my experience was being brought up in a verbal, mental, physical abusive home and witnessing alcoholism, among other things. And even though we were really sheltered, because we were in what you would consider middle upper class family, if you will, um, we came up in an era where like from the Pablo Escobar era to like the drug era and stuff like that, I didn't really understand what was actually happening until I got to the States and started studying and learning about what was happening in South America, ironically enough.
oh,
But when I
wow.
got here, you know people know me as JJ, but I have a long Latin name that when I came to the States, and people were asking me what my name was and I was starting to speak, I spoke broken English, even sometimes now I still struggle with it, but I spoke broken English and I would introduce myself as Jose Joaquin Villar Barranchella Costa Rodriguez, right? And that was not a common thing that you would listen to. So I got made fun of. I got bullied, I got beat up. And so not only was I dealing with a language barrier, but I was also being an outcast, a foreigner in the United States, trying to fit in the streets of LA into a school in LA where I just didn't find a place where I could feel safe and at a home. And being a product of my own environment because I didn't know any better, I didn't have those mental tools to make better decisions, I ended up taking the street gang drug route for
Mhm.
several years, and so that took me down a different path, coming into the States because I was looking for where to fit in. And once I didn't fit in, and once I was being made fun of just because I was a foreigner, I made different decisions that took me down a different route.
Okay, so like going back to like what Tony teaches us, right? So your human needs were not being met through school, so you were finding that in other places,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Like I didn't have the love and connection that he talks about. I didn't have the love and connection that I really wanted from my house, from my family, from my home. Right. And I figured that I would be able to find that love, connection, and certainty, right, at school. Right. And then once I got in that and I started getting made fun of and bullied and picked on, then I lost that. I lost all sense of certainty. I had my significance turned more into the negative of, I started seeing myself how other people would see me as something weird, as something different, as something strange. And then when I got exposed to a different crowd, where it was more along the lines of a brotherhood, then I started fulfilling those needs of the human love and connection and significance. And then I was certain that, I wasn't going to get picked on because I had brothers or homies that had my back. So now I felt relevant.
And what age was that? Around what age was
That
were
was
you
roughly around, I started getting into like the drugs and gangs era and that scene about 13,
about?
about
Oh
12, 13
wow,
years old.
wow, that's young.
Yeah.
So like, damn, that's why like anybody watching this, let's say, bullying is a like
It's a
well,
real thing.
it's a real thing, yeah. And bullying could literally like take you on a different course of life. And usually we just say most of the times it's on the negative route. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I found a different outlet to deal with that and avoid having to deal with bullies and being picked on because I was different. And then I associated, ironically enough, don't ask me how, but ironically enough, I got into a Filipino gang. You would think I would get into a Latin gang, right? But I got into a Filipino gang when I was young, right? But I had that sense of camaraderie and family and brotherhood, that I was longing. At the same time, I know that, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't change it for the world because it allowed me to become who I am now. And it gave me the life experience that I'm able to help inspire, motivate, and transform other people's lives, because that choice led into becoming a high school dropout, right? Going in and out of jail and going through 5 different career changes in such a short amount of time to get to the point where I'm at now, where I'm able to dedicate my life to truly helping those people, which we talked about limiting belief before, but truly helping people reframe their limiting beliefs, because there isn't anything anyone can say that is truth on why they should not be able to succeed. Because so long, I believe in, from my own personal life experience and those friends that we have around us, like a mutual friend, Nick Santanastasso, when you look at people like him or anybody else, you need one person. You need to see and notice one person that has similarities to you or has had a similar upbringing, that if they were able to do it, you have no excuse.
100%. I think because obviously Nick speaks on the Tony Robbins stage, and one of the things he says all the time when he speaks, he says, like, he always says that don't let a man with no legs and one arm outwork you. That's what he always says.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I love what I get to do with impacting people's lives, because although, I mean, from being a Tony student, you've got to meet somebody where they are and help them and lead them to where they want to go. Most of the time, most people are so conditioned in believing what they've known to this point to be true and to be a fact, and to not and not being able to change it in any way, shape, or form. But the truth is, once you make the decision to have more, be better, or be different, everything is changeable, because that's the process of evolution in life. We don't stay the exact same place unless we choose to stay in the same place. So we are essentially conducting our own life. And there's a saying that I always say to all my clients is, I am where I am because I choose to be here. Good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. We can't always prevent things happening to us by life, even though things happen for us. I can't prevent being in a car accident if it was meant for me to be in a car accident. I can't prevent, from being in a traumatic experience, because that's the cards that were dealt. But I can make a difference and I can change something after the fact. It's what I do after that makes the difference in somebody's quality of life or not.
Yeah, that's so perfect what you just said, from what Tony says, right? Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you all the time. Like, and that's what people have to also realize. Like, the past circumstances, like, you're here where you are where you are. A lot of people curse their curses, right?
Yeah.
They curse their curses, but when instead, what I like to tell people, they got to bless their curses, because they are who they are today because of the things they've been through in their life. And a lot of people don't realize that if that the BS never happened, those wrong decisions never were made, you wouldn't be here where you are today. And so you should be thankful. Like you said, you don't recommend, but you shouldn't also curse those curses.
Absolutely. I learned something, and I took this from Tony, one of his events, that it really hit home. It was how to blame efficiently, effectively, and with elegance. And it got to be, for a long time, I cursed the floor my parents walked on. I cursed my life. I hated what I went through. I hated the fact that I felt like I was meant for so much more. I blamed everybody for where I was at, and which is why I developed that phrase that I am where I am because I choose to be here, right? If I recognize that I don't want to be where I'm at, if I want to change my financial situation, my family situation, my friend situation, my life, where my home environment, I have to make that choice. But if I sit and I blame everybody, I disempower myself. I'm giving my power to other people, and I'm allowing outside circumstances to dictate the results of my life. And so when I made that distinction and I learned about how to blame elegantly, right, and efficiently, like you said, I can now say that had I not made those stupid decisions of getting into the gang life and drugs and dropping out and doing all the bad things that I did in my life, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about this. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to help, hundreds of people, thousands of people around the world, transforming their life. I wouldn't be a Tony Robbins senior leader right now, and helping him on his platforms, helping transform millions of lives around the world, which is something that I never fathomed. But had I not hit that threshold of cursing the floor everybody walked on and learned how to blame elegantly, and instead of saying, F you, I hate you for putting me through this or doing this to me in my life, I actually turned my F yous to thank you. Thank you for doing that for me. Thank you for being a shitty parent. Thank you for getting me into that gang. Thank you for putting me in jail. Thank you for all of this, because now I know what I don't want out of life, and I know how to help people avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is like, honestly, like I almost felt a tear, honestly. I get it's crazy because like ever since, and like the thing was for me, ever since I got to the Tony world, I don't know what it was, but he unlocked this emotional thing inside of me where I felt like when I was younger, like men don't cry. Men don't cry. And so like I would always like lock down these emotions. But the moment I started to like, you know, step into that emotional state of myself, I felt more free, honestly. And so like your story and everything you just saying, it just really touches me. I almost want to like just give you a freaking big ass hug. Maybe when I go to Vegas.
Absolutely. Now that I know you're going to be in Vegas, man, we got to meet up. I know you're going to be in the conference, but I'll call John and see if I can get to that same event, because it'd be great to meet you in person, man.
Yeah, man, 100%. Or maybe we can grab a dinner sometime.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like and I'm taken back as well from your situation. Being as a young entrepreneur, right? I mean, I don't know exactly, but you can't be more than like 25, 26.
Yeah, you nailed it. I'm 25, turning 26.
Right. Yeah. And you're as successful as you are. You're helping other people really transform their lives, and it's, Tony always says this in law of attraction, based on the universal laws, like attracts like, to see other people in this niche helping other people is so amazing. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing, to be more around more people like this and inspire other people to do the same. It's like the saying goes, each one teach one.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to add on to what you said before we move on. Like we talk about like people curse their curses, and people like curse. You mentioned cursing the floor. Is that what you said, right?
Yeah, I cursed the floor that my parents walked on. I hated them.
Yeah, and honestly, same thing for me. Like similar situation. Not necessarily the drug route, but like similar situation growing up in an abusive household, right? Getting beat. Obviously, yeah. I mean, that's definitely another story. But I blame my parents for that. Like for a long time, right? And I would and not even like my parents, specifically my mom, right? Specifically my mom, I would always just blame her for everything. And then I think even up to the point of like moving out of my parents' house, um, I caught myself one day just getting mad at her and like just going off on her. Like for no, I think she just said one thing, and I just started to go crazy, start getting mad. Then one time I caught myself, I'm like why am I so angry? Why am I so mad? This is not who I am. I want to stop being like this, but there's something that she keeps on saying that it's just triggering me. And I would blame her words, but really it's because I just I was just like you said, I just hated them. Like anything they said, I would just like find a way to get mad, right? And that state of being mad led me to like honestly like just being in the situation where like I was always just triggered with anything when things don't go my way. And this like bled into not just my parents, but it bled into anything. When technology doesn't work my way, I get mad. I punch the wall when things don't go my way. Right? I'm like, oh my god, my alarm didn't my alarm didn't go off. I'm late for work. I would just blame everything, and that part of my life, I call it the ABCs: argue, blame, complain.
I love that. I love that. No, you're absolutely right. And the thing that's the most impressive about it, well, one, that you being 25 and being as young as you are, like, I believe age is just a number, maturity and your mental aptitude is completely different. That's really what demonstrates somebody's level of maturity and age, if you will.
Mhm.
But what you said is so intriguing, because I, like you, I had to go through NA, which is and like Alcoholics Anonymous. I had to go through Narcotics Anonymous, and I had to go through anger management, at a
Mhm.
point in my life, to really try to help understand where I was at and where I came from, and the choices that I made. And I realized one thing that I help my clients with is learning how to master, like, emotional mastery and have emotional fitness. And I recognized this, and I knew that this was true, even before getting to the Tony world. And then once I started hearing him really discuss this, I really got this concept, which is absolutely hard to really fathom if you aren't around this information, if you're not in the information flow of personal development. But when I understood that no one can make you feel any kind of way without your permission, that
Mhm.
changed my entire life. Because, like like, if something were to go wrong, I was infamous for putting holes in the wall. Like, I just had a temper, and that's why I was like court appointed anger management. Right. So, but I realized it isn't, when I blame other people or other situations or circumstances, I realized it has nothing to do with them. And it has everything to do with the fact that I am lacking in emotional fitness. I
Mhm.
am lacking the understanding of computing in my brain from when someone says something or a situation occurs to the moment that it hits my brain. I've got to assess so many little different details in microseconds to make the distinction to say, this is going to make me mad, I'm going to punch the wall, or this is going to make me feel jealous, or it's going to make me feel angry or hurt or sad. I've got to make all of these different distinctions based on what somebody else says or somebody else does before I make a conscious and deliberate effort to react to that circumstance.
Mhm.
When I learned that, it was like, okay, obviously we're still evolving. I'm not perfect. I'm still developing this skill, and it's a never ending improvement, you know. But I realized when you can actually stop blaming, and when something happens, and you can actually just start saying, okay, what didn't I catch? What did I misunderstand? What didn't I comprehend? Or how did I interpret it in a different way that it caused me to react in this way? Your life starts changing drastically, from your relationships, from your finances, and from your ability to grow as a person. It's incredible what can happen when you actually build the emotional fitness muscle.
Yeah, and so that's called emotional fitness, being able to just, before like getting to that state of anger, like understanding and realizing, like, okay, what was it that's causing me to feel this way right now, and how can I? So in emotional fitness, would you also say that part of it is like getting back into that beautiful state, like from
What?
that?
Yeah, 100%. I'll give you an easy example. Let's say you and I were having a conversation. Whatever, we get into a disagreement, an argument, and excuse the language, but you say, you're such a fucking asshole for whatever reason, right? Let's just say that were to happen. I have, at that point in time, I can be reactive, right? I can either be reactive or I can be proactive,
Mhm.
right? Me being reactive is me being like, well, coming back at you, right? Responding to your verbiage, to what you said, and to how you said it, right? Or I can be proactive about it, and I can really stop and use emotional fitness tools, and I can assess. First, I'd have to understand, did you have a good day or a bad day? What does you effing a-hole mean to you? Where did it actually stem from? Are you
Mhm.
really talking about me, or are you blowing off steam from something else? Did you really understand everything that I said for you to actually react in such a manner? So there's so much information that I have to assess about you first, and then I have to figure out, okay, well, am I having a good day? Am I having a bad day? If I was in a peak state, or in a beautiful state, or in a heightened emotional state, like, let's say I just, excuse the expression, I'm just saying this, but like, let's just say I got laid, or I won the lotto, or I got a date with the love of my life, or whatever. You saying something negative to me is not going to affect me as much as if I just crashed my car, if I found out my family was sick, if my girlfriend broke up with me, right? That's going to dictate how I'm going to react. So through emotional fitness, if I can learn how to compute all of that data in a short amount of time, in split seconds, I can give a different meaning to you effing a-hole and say, yeah, you're probably right.
Wow.
Because I can give it a different meaning. Because in my mind, I'm making the choice not to be reactive, but be proactive about how I feel and how I'm going to react to it. And I'm going to switch the meaning of you effing a-hole and say, you know what? You effing a-hole to me means you're so handsome and you're so successful. I want to be like you. Because things only have the meaning we give them. So,
100%.
so to you, you could be venting for X amount of reasons that I have no knowledge about. If I have these tools, if I have emotional fitness on my side, right, and I've mastered my emotions, then I can assess all of this in a matter of seconds and choose to not let it bother me.
Yeah, 100%. So like emotional fitness, obviously it's this never ending evolution that you're going through of like processing all those questions and then making a better like response to when someone does something that that in the past would cause you to blow steam at them, maybe swear right back at them, or just completely shut them off, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's different techniques that I'll coach clients in, or that we've learned from Tony. One of my favorite ones is like, I totally understand what you mean, but can you explain that a little bit more? Like, imagine you saying that to somebody who's totally telling you off, and they're in the heat of the moment, they're completely angry, and you are not phased in any way, shape, or form, and you could just honestly from your heart say, hey, I totally know what you mean, but could you elaborate a little bit more? They're gonna not know what to say or how to react to that.
Yeah, because
you know or they're
they're used to pushback, like yeah.
exactly. And so when you create that dance, from an emotional standpoint of view, you're able to, like, if you can truly master how you react to people and stop being reactive, you're going to have a better handle on building your life by design.
Hmm. And so the thing is this, and when I first got, and first a lot of people just watching this, just so you understand my audience, they're probably like they're startup entrepreneurs or people just getting into business. And so a lot of the times people listen to these podcasts and then they're like, well, Rowell, this is the Wealth Creators Podcast. How come you never talk about like business strategy? Because I tell them, because 80% of success is psychology, right? It's up here and people just don't get it. They think it's, and the crazy thing is, I know where they're coming from because that's what I thought too. I always heard people say like it's psychology, it's mindset, and for a long time I never believed that. I'm like, because this is what I would say. I would say, well, like if I take this action, whether if I have a good mindset or not, it's still gonna work because the action works, right? That's what I thought in my head, and to a degree that's true, right? If you do the thing, it's gonna work. But what I started to realize is those actions that produce me cash flow, that make me money, that make me like wealthier, I can't take those actions consistently if I don't have that psychology all dealt with. And so that's the aha moment that I understood after really realizing when Tony says 80% of like success and wealth and like like abundance is literally all psychology. And so for anybody watching this, right, the reason why we talk about belief, we talk about mindset and emotional fitness, is because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And like if you get super reactive, right, to just people maybe like swearing at you, then how do you expect your business to thrive, to succeed, right?
100%. I love that. And I love that you teach that, you talk about that, strategy and tactics, right? That's going to help you obviously build your business and create your wealth and scale. At the end of the day, for anybody that's listening that wants to start something new, if you've got a crappy mindset, you're going to have a crappy life. You're going to have a crappy business or a crappy career, because you can go, if you have the mindset that is unshakable, with confidence, with positivity, and I'm not talking about just being a positive person with no action to back it up to gain results, right? I'm talking about being proactive and having what you're doing on a daily basis in alignment with what your belief system is, with your positivity, then you're completely in alignment to create your success. If anybody is offered an opportunity, right, to a new job or a new career, and they don't really have the expertise, they don't have experience, they really don't know what they're doing, but they have a great mindset, they're going to come in and say, give me all you got, teach me, make me work, I want to do this, I can learn this is going to be easy. They're obviously going to excel a lot faster than the person that's coming in with a crappy mindset and say, God, no, I can't do this, this is hard, why am I doing this, I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're not going to get anywhere. So that's why, like what you said, and I'm piggybacking on that, mindset is so important. I'll give you a personal example. Right now, I started working with Armin and his company of highticketcoaching.com, which is a beautiful company, an amazing culture. They're great people. I freaking love them. And this is coming from a person that hates, utterly despised sales. And I am right now working for their sales department as a closer, doing pretty well. And I had two choices, right? I knew that I had to get better at selling and sales to help scale my personal coaching company. And I also believe in collaboration and helping other people's mission, vision, and message. If you are of service, you're going to, by default, you're going to be the byproduct of success when you're helping other people get ahead. Mm-hmm. And so I said, let me go ahead and put myself, on the side or on a back burner for a moment, and let me go learn a new skill while I help somebody else that I believe in excel in something that I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And when I walked in there, because I have a strong mindset, because I have a strong will, I knew that no matter what they threw my way, I was willing to take the challenge. And it allowed me to excel fast in a short amount of time, even though I'm still learning and I don't know a lot of what I'm doing. I just know that if you lead by your heart and you lead with service, you're going to get great results. But if I had a crappy mindset, I would have already quit because selling wasn't my thing, and now I was able to reframe that and know that selling is providing a service to helping somebody else live a better quality life.
Yeah, 100%. Selling is serving. That's the belief to be successful in sales, right? And when we say successful in sales, I mean just successful in business in general. Because if you don't believe, at the end of the day, if you're starting a business and you're getting someone to buy from you, right? You're getting someone to buy from you, and if you don't think that what you have to offer is going to help them, if you don't really believe that, then you're not going to be able to sell them. And if you believe sales is sleazy, and this is just for anybody listening to this, if you believe sales is sleazy, then it also reflects on what you believe in your business, right?
Rowell, one of the things that I realized that really changed my perspective, and this isn't just about sales, but this is about entrepreneurship, building a business, right? I learned that even though I claimed to utterly despise, and I use those words deliberately, right? Because they're emotionally charged words. And that's how my belief system used to be. I utterly despised and hated selling anything to anyone because of the conditioning that we have around salesmen, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I understood that I've been selling myself for 40 plus years with my own belief system, my own BS story, I came to realize that every single human being on planet Earth is a salesman. And if we're not selling a product, if we're not selling a service, we're selling either a truth or a lie to someone. Oof. Or we're selling a story or a belief that we have about ourselves or a limitation about ourselves every single day. So when I realized that, I was like, we are born salesmen and women, right? We're born into this. because we sell ourselves to get a job, to get an apartment or a house. We sell ourselves to get a relationship. We sell ourselves to get out of a problem, to get in a lie, to get out of a lie. We sell ourselves for our parents to buy us candy or gifts or whatever. We're selling ourselves every single moment of every single day. Now, if we can transfer that energy and that wit and that understanding into selling a product or service or a business idea or developing an idea that's going to help the quality of life of those around us and for ourselves included, that's where business comes into play. And that's when we become successful.
Yeah, that's why business is so beautiful. Like the same thing with me. Like I didn't really like selling to people, but then when I started to think like, man, selling is, like you said, like is that aha moment. Like, man, we've been selling our whole lives, right? I sell myself this belief that does not serve me. I need to sell myself a different belief that empowers me, right? And not just myself. I wanted to get in the path where I'm selling people, right, not just the tools and strategies, but the belief and the empowerment that they can achieve anything they want to achieve as long as they're up for that challenge, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I love that. That's the biggest selling point is either I believe I can't or I believe I can.
100%. And so the thing is, it's funny that you say you're a closer, because around 2 years ago, I was also a closer. So there's another thing. There's another thing we got
synergy going on.
Yeah. So I used to close for some. I mean, they were in the. I used to close Airbnb, like selling Airbnb. It was an Airbnb course. Like I ever heard of like Brian Page, the B&B formula?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to sell for them, and then I used to go for Kevin David. So he used to sell like Amazon automation.
Okay.
There's just some stuff, but I entered the closing, the sales world, because just like yourself, like you're learning a new skill, right? For yourself, right? You learn a new skill, but also serve and help other people. That's how I felt exactly the same way 2 years ago, and that's what I went to that route, and then I learned what I learned, and then after that, I was like, wow, like I made some money, great money as a closer. Get to help people move forward with their business, and then on top of that, learning a new skill. So when it's for my time, I can like branch off. I already have the skills. I already have the repetition, and it's just about like applying it for myself instead of for somebody else. That's why I got in to begin with. And so it's cool that you're saying something very similar. And it's like getting to the closing. So how long have you been doing it for Armin and them?
1 month.
So just like first
Yeah.
first ever.
First time ever doing sales of any sort, other than selling my coaching company or personal coaching or whatever. I've never really truly had. Oh no, actually, hold on. Let me backtrack, because my first selling experience, my entrepreneurial debut, was selling drugs on the street when I was younger. Right. And then I transitioned into selling $2,000 vacuum cleaners door to door as a door knocker. That was horrible. Right. So that was my selling experience. But as far as like actually knowing the psychology of selling and being a closer and being efficient at it, it really came into when I started working with Armin about a month ago. And since then I was able to be on the top of the leaderboard of closers, with not really knowing what the heck I'm doing. But, I say that not to brag or boast, but I say that to demonstrate what a powerful mindset is. And I believe that one of the biggest downfalls that we have as either humans or society or a nation is that we don't want to learn because we want to avoid the imposter syndrome, or we want to avoid the failing, or we want to avoid feeling like we're starting again from ground zero. And I believe, anybody that's trying to build a business wants to build a business, wants to become an entrepreneur, or help somebody else on their vision. I believe that the biggest asset we have is to have a blank slate mentality, is to, like Bruce Lee talks about, emptying the cup, is about exiting out everything you think and being willing to learn new skills to make yourself more valuable. Jim Rohn talks about this all the time, making yourself more valuable in the workplace. While most people are asking for less problems, right? The top 1% aren't asking or praying for less problems. They're asking to become better problem solvers.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you shift that mentality, and this comes in with emotional fitness, emotional mastery, understanding thyself, when you get to that level of understanding who you are and what you have to offer, one of the things that I specialize in is the little inner critic, or what's known as the imposter syndrome, right? That self-negative talk. Coming from 30 years of entertainment in Hollywood and Los Angeles, Las Vegas, I lived an entire lifetime of having people judge me and tell me I wasn't enough of this, I wasn't enough of that, I was too much of this or too much of that, to try to book a gig or book a job so I could put food on my table, clothes on my back, and a roof over my head. And you learn a thing or two about the external critic and what it does internally to your own self-negative dialogue. And so I share this with you because if people do want to start a business, if they want to start entrepreneurship, the best thing that they could do to start that from a psychology standpoint of view is be okay with being the dumbest person in the room, be okay with wanting to learn something you know nothing about, and wanting to empty your cup and forgetting about everything that you know, and be receptive to new information, because all that does is it creates value for you, value for whatever business you're creating or whatever you're a part of, and it allows you to add more value, to add a solution to the masses so that you can create your own wealth.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I always say, like, again, going back to belief, right? To feel like being the dumbest person in the room, starting from scratch. People, a lot of time people believe, well, like I'm just a failure, that I have to start from here. But when instead the belief should be, at least this is my belief, but the belief should be like, man, this is the best case scenario because you can only go up from there.
Oh, we're so in alignment with that, man.
Yeah, it's like you can only go up from there, right? And I think this was and this was actually true because I actually joined a recent mastermind where it's a very high level mastermind, paid lot of money for it. It was like, I think it was like total like 150K. It was a lot. And so I go in this room, and then we're in there's like maybe like 80 people inside this room. And then the first question was like, okay, like who, like introduce yourself and what's your biggest win in the last, in like year to date, right? Or like in the, like this year in 2022. This was back in May. People go around the room. People are like, my name is so and so, and last week we did like 1.1 million in one day. And I'm just like, well, and then it sounded so crazy when the guy said 1.1 million in one day. I'm like, this guy has to be joking. And the next person is like, yeah, you know what? Like my name is whatever. Like, yeah, in the beginning of January, we did like 5.5 million in one. I'm like, what the heck? So they're going around this room. These people, like, I've always thought of like, man, if I made $1 million in 1 year, that'd be awesome. And people are talking about like, I made that like in a day. I'm like, that's so crazy. And I didn't really believe it. But the more and more people kept on saying they made $1 million days, or like people are like, oh man, I was so close. I made like 950. I'm like, I'm so mad. I'm like, mad. Like I'd be thrilled. Right. But it was just so crazy that after hearing other people accomplish it, then I started to believe, you know what? That's not so crazy. And then it came to me. I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, all right, my name is Rowell and I'm doing an event in Mexico. Right. And then everybody just started clapping for me. I'm like, oh wow, this is so awesome. Right. Like, everyone's saying they're making $100,000 days, $1 million days. And at first I was getting kind of scared. I was like, man, this is like, I don't know if I'm in the right room. And then I caught myself thinking that. I said, you know what? I'm exactly in the right room I need to be, because in order for me to get there, I need to surround myself with the people who've already been there. And it's that saying, right? You become the average of the people you surround yourself with, right? Yeah. You become the people you surround yourself with. So it's pretty insane. I call it, it's that like word in biology, osmosis, right? Like you absorb what your surroundings are. And so what do you have to say about like being around other people? I mean, there's the word that Tony says, proximity,
you know what?
is power.
Proximity is power.
Yeah.
I love that, and I'm glad that you asked, because I've been, truth be told, I've been really thinking about the validity in that statement. You are the average of the five people that you spend the most amount of time with. On average, I believe, and this is just from my experience, right, and my model of the world, I believe that to be true to a degree,
To a degree.
only for the fact that I would be, if I would believe that wholeheartedly, then that means that there's always an exception to the rule, like anything else. That means that I would have been the exception to the rule, because if I look at my life from my personal experience, I spent years being a part of a gang and being around other gang members as being the five people that I spend the most amount of time with. Why the entire time was I finding a way out? Why the entire time did I want a different life? If we're only going by that statement, you are the average of the five people that you spend the most amount of time with, just by that statement alone, why didn't I stay there?
Mm.
If that's the most amount of people that I was spending the time with. And then fast forward to a different part of my life. I used to be a high school teacher, right? And all I hung around was teachers and students. But why did I want more than that? And why didn't I stay there? And why didn't I stay on that like $30,000 to $50,000 yearly income, teacher salary, which is horrible, right? I don't know what it is now. This was years ago, right? But why didn't I stay there if that's who I spend the most amount of time with? So it brings to my attention from my personal experience. I think that statement is incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's more to that. I think that, yes, generally speaking, it's true. But I think that with what Napoleon Hill talks about, with desire, definiteness of purpose, faith, I think if you have a high level of understanding within yourself, that you can always be the exception to the rule, regardless of who you're hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
Because that means that if that statement was also true, I would still be behind bars. I would still be into gangs. I would still be living on the streets, because that was what my proximity was. So I think that it can empower somebody to motivate. I just got chills. Wow. This is actually the first time I'm voicing this out loud. I think that you can empower somebody who is in a state in their life where they don't have proximity to people that are thinking at a higher level, or earning more than they are, or have a lifestyle that they dream of, to start looking for other people to hang around with. I think it can inspire that. But I also think that it could be detrimental to a person that, let's say, I'm right now around millions of dollars made around the people that I'm hanging around with. I have millionaires and billionaires in my proximity,
Mm-hmm.
some of the most high achievers that I could have ever fathomed to be around, right? If I don't have this definite of purpose of wanting to improve myself, it doesn't matter that I'm hanging out with them. Doesn't mean I'm going to become them. If I'm not taking proper action, and if I'm not in alignment with my goals, my vision, my actions, and the proximity I have access to, it doesn't matter if I'm going to be around them. I'm not going to turn into the average of the five people I'm spending the most time with. It doesn't matter if I'm not actually taking those steps in order to be that. So I think that there's a missing component to that statement, that it could either help you or hurt you. So if I were to recreate that, and I'm going to take a stab in the dark, literally as we speak in real time.
Do it. I would love
right?
to see the finish.
If I were to say that statement and recreate it, you are the average of the five people that you spend the most amount of time with, if you're in alignment with your thoughts, your desires, and your actions.
That's good. That's a good stab at the dark.
Obviously I'll redefine that, but the truth is like, and I loved your question, man, because I got to ask you, like, we can look at you, like you are not where you were 10 years ago.
No.
right? I mean, granted, you're 50, you were 15
Yeah,
back then,
15. I was in high
right?
school.
Okay, so let's like when did you start this journey? How many years ago?
I was, what was that? 20, like 2017, 5 years ago.
So from 2017 to 2022, you went from an average of being an employee for somebody making what to being an entrepreneur and owner of your own company to making what now, like on average. You don't have to say the like the
Yeah, it's
exact
like
number, but
around, it could be lowest 20,000, highest 90,000 a month, like around there, around the,
okay,
it could be that.
right? So was it just because you were hanging around smarter people or
Yeah,
people that made more
no,
money?
no, it wasn't. You're
So
right.
then what was it?
Yeah, like again, in alignment of the people that I wanted to surround myself with, in alignment with the beliefs and the actions of the people that I wanted to surround myself with. I feel like that's what caused me to get there. Um, so yeah, you're right. So it's not necessarily the people I surround myself with. I mean, like obviously that's one part of it, right? Putting yourself in the right environment. But like you said, like if you can be, because the exception goes both ways, right? It's not just you can be in that circle, but if you don't take the action, if you don't believe in what they're saying, and you're not taking that massive action, you're not actually like working on yourself, and you're just continuing to procrastinate, then it's just nothing's gonna actually change, right? So yeah, now that you say it, now I'm looking back, that's not necessarily the case. But I wanted to be in alignment with the five people I wanted to surround myself with. I got to the point where I became the average of those people, the people that I want to surround myself with, because I first started by saying, you know what, like I want to be better. I want something different. I don't want to be this average Joe. I know that there's more to life, and I know that I have a higher ceiling, not even a higher ceiling. I know there's no ceiling. I know there's no
Yeah.
ceiling, and I just want to continue to like see what I can do and how far I can stretch this journey of mine, right? So
Exactly.
that but like yeah, I really need to think about like what else got me there. Like there's a lot of factors, of course. But what do you think from what I said? Like, what are your thoughts?
You obviously you had to take some serious action. I mean, you already just stated that you invested significant amount of money into a mastermind that has no promise of a return on your investment other than whatever you make of it, right? So that means that you learn by the power of proximity. And I believe that this is what happens. I think that when you're around a higher quality type of person, I'm not saying that you don't, not everybody wants to be rich. Not everybody wants to think better. I get it. And I'm not saying that that's better or worse than anyone else. I'm just saying that whatever serves you, whatever you feel the most in alignment with, you know, I believe that the people that we're around have the potential to influence us and mentor us, right? And show us the pathway they took so that we can take the path of least resistance and avoid the same pitfalls that they did so we can get further faster. However, within that, I believe that what you've done also, and what I've noticed that I've done in my life is I had to ask more empowering, powerful questions, right? Know how to assess the answers given to me by whatever questions I had. I had to extract certain information because just because something worked for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for all, right? So I had to assess who I was, where I'm at, what I truly believe in, and knowing that the influence around me with the information of how I understood it, I would have to act upon it in a way that would be in alignment with me trying to get to being the average of the people that I'm spending the most amount of time with.
Yeah.
Because if I really think about it now, besides my clients, right? Besides working with Armin and his team, I spend the most amount of time in masterminds or with other millionaires. Am I there yet? No. Am I the sum of them right now? No. Am I getting there 100%? But it's also because I'm taking strategic steps to get to that point. If I didn't know how to take those steps, I would still be around this proximity. I'd still be around these 5 people, but I would not end up being the average of them because I didn't know how to implement the information that I was exposed to.
Mm-hmm. And so, what do you think? So, for people who are surrounded by other individuals that want to move forward, and they're, how do I want to put this? Like, what's stopping an individual from, in your opinion, what is stopping an individual from taking action, even though they're surrounded by like successful people or people who are getting places?
I believe it's of various things, a number of factors. One, I mean, like you already know, people and human behavior, we do things to either gain more pleasure or to avoid pain.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And I think that a lack of clarity of, do they have enough pain to move away from it? I believe that you need to have not only the carrot on the stick, but you also need the whoop in the ass,
Yeah.
both of them simultaneously, because when the carrot is not strong enough, the whip better be. And if the whip is, you're numb to the whip now, the carrot better be enticing enough for you to move, right? I believe that you need both of them, right? Even though it's easier to be pulled into a direction than pushed, right? So I think that that's one factor. I believe also the other factor is faith within oneself, that it's possible for you.
So going back to the belief.
Yeah, like your belief based around, like, okay, I'll give you an example. I'm working with Armin, who I believe is a genius for not only his age, his experience, and what he does and what he offers his clients. He's really great at what he does. I have to believe that it's possible for me to scale a business in 2-3 years to over $3 million. I got to know, and I got to believe that I can do that. It doesn't matter if I'm around it, because I can take all of his strategies, all of his teachings, all of his mentorship. But at the end of the day, if I don't believe it within myself, I'm not going to know how to apply the information given to me. He could tell me, look, do from A to Z, or anyone can tell somebody, do this from A to Z. And if you do this without a glitch, you're going to get X results. If I don't believe that I can do it, and I'm not willing to commit myself, and I'm not willing to have a definite of purpose by the end, or for the end results, it doesn't matter if I have the entire blueprint in front of me handed to me on a silver spoon. I'm not going to get there. So I believe also the belief within yourself is a major factor. And last but not least, I honestly believe that you have to truly want it. And I think that this is where a lot of people go wrong, because much like our own belief systems, that were conditioned by others or our surroundings or environmental or circumstantial, I believe that a lot of people want what they see others have, but they necessarily don't stop to ask if they themselves truly want it, or they themselves are willing to do whatever it takes and what's necessary to get it. I'll give you this example. I was fortunate enough to be part of Cirque du Soleil for 7 years and be one of the last remaining dancers in the world to be handpicked by the Michael Jackson family to represent his name after he passed, right? We auditioned about close to 7,000 people around the world for 3 months for them to only pick 7 people to join the company and represent Michael.
And you're
as individual dancers. I was one of the 7.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Crazy.
So that's like a 0.001% or whatever. Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. The cast was made up of other people, but individuals that were hired, there was only 7 of us, right? From a worldwide massive audition. And so I share this story because if I didn't believe it was possible for me, if I didn't want it more than anything for myself, I wouldn't have done whatever it took to get there. Now, if anybody knows like the level of expertise and the high level of performance that you have to be as an elite 1% athlete to be part of something like Cirque du Soleil, you have to eat, breathe, sleep, and poop training. Like you have to wake up. Your entire full day regimen is based around building a machine around your body and your craft to be among the best in the world. Now, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of performers in the world saying, oh my God, their end all be all goal is to be part of a prestigious company like this. But are they willing to wake up when their body hurts? Are they willing to even push through when their body's bleeding? Are they willing to train when they have a broken bone? Are they willing to eat whatever it takes to be in a certain weight bracket? Are they willing to go through sleepless nights and be far away from their families to live this type of lifestyle? So when you ask yourself, yes, I want this goal, doesn't matter if you want it, most people fail to ask themselves, am I willing to become what I need to become to have that outcome, to have that goal? You, I'm assuming, had to change a lot of your lifestyle to go from making, whether it be 20,000 a year, 20,000 a month, to 90,000 a month or 90,000 a year. No matter what the bracket is, you had to become somebody different to be able to achieve this. Did you not?
Yeah, 100%. And something that I preach all the time. It's change, shifting into a new identity, into the identity that can do the thing in order to have those things that you want. And it's crazy. So what do you have to say about like you said, eat, breathe, sleep, like that lifestyle that you had? Would you almost call that like an obsession, or is that not the right word?
I think that obsession is taking it lightly. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if we're talking about business, if we're talking about successful people, you got to ask yourself, out of 7 point something billion people in the world in existence today, how is it that still only there's the 1%ers living life in abundance? So then when I think of those numbers, right? And I used to never be a numbers guy, but now that I got into sales and closing, I had to learn, right? When I think of that average or that percentage, that means that only 1% of the world is doing something significantly different than the rest of the world. We all sleep, we all eat, we all work, we all have families, relationships, So what is that different common denominator that's in the 1%ers that isn't in the 99% of the rest of the world? And if you will, call it obsession, call it madness, call it a relentless burning desire of resilience to go through hell and back to achieve a goal. And I believe that that's where most people fail, is they're not willing to go through the trenches to live in the pearly gates of heaven, if you will, right? For a lack of a better description. And that's one of the things that within my own personal story, what I help my clients with, or what I love being around people like yourself, is that we know that this distinction, that you've got to be laser focused, obsessed with the outcome, no matter what gets in your way. Because we know that, Murphy's Law is going to knock on the door every chance it gets. And, whether you're a man, you said that you were a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Same here. Like, I can speak this, and I don't speak religion or politics, because everybody's got their own opinion. But I can say this, whether it's Buddha, Allah, the universe, Mother Nature, God, Jesus, whatever you want to call it. For me, I call it Jesus, I call it God, right? I believe that we are only tested in our own faith when everything goes bottoms up, when everything goes wrong, when you've got nothing else, when you are either dirt poor on the street. I'm being a little dramatic there, but you understand the point, and hopefully everybody that's listening gets that. It's our character isn't exposed, and it isn't created when everything is good. Our character is built when everything's going wrong. And how you handle it. And if you are in faith with yourself and whatever it is, the entity that you believe in, that truly makes the difference. And I believe that, it all goes to belief. It all goes to identity. It all goes to, emotional fitness and mindset, because tactics and strategy we can learn if we're open to it. and you
Mhm.
can build anything that you want at the end of the day. I just recently transitioned again from going in 30 years of entertainment to going into a field of coaching and sales and marketing and service, which I'm still learning the ropes to get to a different level. But I could have had the choice to either say, no, this is my identity. I only know this. I got to figure out how to make this work. Or I can say, you know what? Like I said before, this is my clean slate. This is my opportunity to grow because I am one with faith in my God, in my universe, that I will prevail.
Yeah, it's so powerful, man. Honestly, love hearing everything you're saying. And like going back to what you said, like why people never get to that top 1% because they're not willing to go through hell to get through heaven. And there's a quote that my mentor always says. He says there's no advancement without adversity. There's no strength without struggle. There's no destination without difficulty. Right.
Right.
Yeah, as I was saying, you need to go through some stuff to get to your stuff. And if you're not willing to go through that pain, right, to go through that hardship, to go through the trenches, then it's gonna be, I want to say almost impossible, but it's gonna be very difficult to like achieve and bring those dreams and goals and whatever you want to accomplish to like fruition. And yeah, man, it's been awesome just talking about all this. And if anybody is wondering, again, like, why are we talking about all this? Why are we talking about self-development and all this? Because would you agree that like having this conversation, being more aware, being more conscious about what's happening in here and inside of here, that would you say that that's one of the first steps to
I
creating?
believe that, yeah, no, you're right. I believe that that's probably the most important step because any person, I mean, you take the pandemic, how many jobs were lost? How many businesses closed? You know, how many, if you really think about it, and I heard this statistic that there were through the 2 years that we were dealing with the pandemic, there were more millionaires made in those 2 years than in our entire lifetime we've been alive. And you got to ask yourself, how was it in the midst of so much tragedy and illness and death and experiencing something that majority of every single person alive right now had never really truly experienced, right? Other than like from like the Spanish flu and Black Plague and all that kind of stuff. But you know, in my lifetime, I'd never experienced anything like that. And you got to ask yourself, what truly made the difference for those that were able to become millionaires, for those that thrived through their business, through those that innovated and pivoted to create something remarkable while majority of the world was suffering. And so that only leads to the bare conclusion in my mindset is identity, mindset, personal development, emotional fitness, the desire of seeing your goal achieved in the midst of or adversity, you know, and still being able to follow through with it. And I think that you're 100% spot on that we can all decide to quit what we're doing now and start over tomorrow in a new field, in a new industry, in a new, you know, company, or build a new business. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to allow us to thrive is how we approach it and how we think about it and what energy and effort we put towards it. And same goes, if we fail, it's all falls on us. And I think that the moment that the majority of society and humanity starts learning the concept of radical responsibility, you know, for themselves, for their actions, for their reactions, I believe that will make this world a better place, because the concept of blaming everyone else or everything else for why you are where you're at is no longer valid. COVID proved that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no, if COVID didn't prove that, it put everybody in the same even keel, regardless if you were wealthy or poor, whether you were in a third world country or whether you're in a first world country. It didn't matter. Everybody was accessible or prone to corona, getting sick, dying, whatever the case may be. But why did people make the conscious and deliberate effort and decision and take the steps to succeed while others use the blame excuse to fail? So obviously everybody's circumstance, and believe me, I lost people in the pandemic, and it was a horrific thing for a lot of people, but at the same token, there's people that say it was the worst thing that could have ever happened, and there's people that say that it was the best thing that could have ever happened.
Yeah, I'm on that side of the token.
I'm on that side of the fence as well. But what made the difference? It was your mindset and your willingness to take action, to do something about your circumstance, to improve it, change it, or innovate your situation.
Mm-hmm. And like, to just just to wrap up the podcast, going back to that quote you always tell your clients, like, would you be able to say it one more time, just for the
Absolutely.
people, for the people in the back, for the people in the back,
for the people in the back? This is how I start every coaching session. Is I want every single person to write this down, put it on their forehead, put it in their bathroom, take a screenshot of it, and write down, I am where I am because I choose to be here. And no matter which way you paint it, whether it's good or bad, that is your choice to be there. Mm-hmm. It isn't circumstance. It isn't environmental. It isn't financial. It is, you are right where you are because you chose to be there. If you didn't choose to learn more, that's on you. If you chose to screw somebody over, that's on you. If you chose to be around the wrong crowd or be around the right crowd, it's on you. And people say, well, I work for an employee, that I only make certain amount of money. That's not, I'm not choosing that. I'm like, well, have you added more value to yourself, or have you asked powerful questions to your employer to figure out how you can add more value to the company so that you could potentially either get a raise or get a promotion or start your own business, but you're still choosing to be there. So no matter which way you paint it, I am where I am because I choose to be here.
For the people in the back, if that wasn't clear, I don't know what is. Right. And just to end this off, because we've done closing, right? We talk about closing. We have those similarities. You're in WFG, you're in the coaching space. So I know you worked and you danced for Michael Jackson, right? And so I just want to see if there's one more similarity. There might be, there might not be. I might ruin the streak here, but it's okay. I'm just gonna ask you this.
We're on a roll, man. Come on,
a roll. It's okay. I'm taking, entrepreneur. You gotta take the risk. So
let's do it.
So my question is, like, what is your favorite Michael Jackson song?
Oh, you can't ask that. Okay. I'm gonna answer that with a question. Give me a circumstance or a situation that I would want to be in, because let's say I'll give you an example. If I want to get hyped and get ready to go into something, I'm going to listen to a certain thing. If I want to kind of be in internalize a thought or a feeling, I'm going to go towards a different song. So there's, give me a little bit more context.
Okay. So let's say you want to get in that emotion of like I want to serve people today. I want to change the world.
Man in the mirror.
Man in the mirror.
Man in the mirror.
All right, there you go. So we're 100% exactly the same. That's that song too.
Absolutely, Man in the Mirror for me. If I really, because essentially, I just got goosebumps again. Essentially, at the end of the day, I am where I am because I choose to be here is a sole reflection of the man in the mirror. Like, if you really want to make a world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change.
Exactly.
Right. There's no better way of saying that. That takes away the blame to everyone else. And in fact, before we go, I'll share this great story real quickly. When we created the Michael Jackson show here at Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay, the very first song that we learned was Man in the Mirror. And I
Or
remember we got trained by all of Michael's choreographers, his directors, like the people that created the moves. That's who we were trained by.
Mhm.
And so I had the blessing of working with Travis Payne, one of his longest choreographers and artistic directors, and we get into the dance studio, and they come in and they say, okay, we're going to do Man in the Mirror, but before we do it, hold on a second, one sec. But before we go into this, we're going to let you listen to the making of Man in the Mirror,
Mm.
which the general public really hasn't heard, right? But because we're part of the Michael Jackson estate and the family, they got access to the Michael Jackson vault of music, right? Like he has actually like a secret room compartment in their estate where they hold all the masters to the songs ever recorded on Michael Jackson's history, right? And so they brought out this track where Michael is humming and singing the track and the melody and tapping it on the floor, giving the rhythm and the feel of what Man in the Mirror was supposed to be about.
That was the creation. That was the creation of
The
it.
the, the
Wow,
creation
that's
of it,
so crazy.
right? And so we
That's
got to hear, and then we got to hear stories, about what really like Man in the Mirror was really about and where it stemmed from and why it was so powerful. And so, in the show, right, we got to use Michael Jackson's hologram, right? And they got to pick out one dancer out of we had about 29 dancers in the cast at this time, right? And they picked one dancer to where the very first time that the audience was going to see Michael Jackson on stage, which was his hologram, it was coming out of the soul and the spirit of one of the what we called MJ warriors, right? So they came out of the chest of one of the dancers. And I remember to this day, Travis Payne, the choreographer, he picks me, he goes, JJ, we're gonna have you do this part. I'm a grown ass man. And he said that Michael was going to come out of my chest. I started bawling like a little hyena, a little 13-year-old girl. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Oh my God, I get to be the Man in the Mirror. Right. And I shared this story because I realized one thing, that magic is within all of us. And I'm using the story of this show, even though it was a hologram, even though it was a production, even though I got to see it from the audience perspective, where this little pixie dust came out of my chest, and here's Michael Jackson singing Man in the Mirror. I never took that lightly. And I use that story and I use that example because in hindsight, what I'm doing now, I never thought my career as an entertainer was going to end by an accident on stage. And I never thought that I'd get into the personal development field, but it ties into everything that we talked about. If I wasn't willing to open up, if I wasn't willing to start over, if I wasn't willing to accept the bad things that happened to me as it being grateful and having gratitude for them, and if I wouldn't have taken all those life lessons and all those little nuances, I wouldn't have radical responsibility for who I am and what I am and what I teach and preach to all my clients to help them live a better, higher quality of life. And I think that this is what you do. And, the little bit that we know each other, and I'm excited to develop our friendship a lot more, but what I see you do from your social media and your podcast and stuff like that is showing people that there's more than just one way. And then if you open yourself up to the possibility that you were intended to live in abundance and in greatness, your byproduct is gonna want to have more in your life. And you're gonna want to excel more and get further faster in your life. And all of that stems by identity, mindset, personal development, and psychology.
Yeah, personal beliefs, like everything we've talked about. Wow, that's so crazy. Wow, man, I love talking to you. And honestly, we're gonna have a part 2, 3, 4, 5 because we need to talk. We need to talk about Circus du Soleil, right? And all these other things that you've been through. But man, it was so awesome having you on the podcast. And if you guys didn't know JJ, now you know him. Now you know a bit of his story, but man, we're gonna have you back on the podcast if you're down for that.
I would love that, man. And I'm excited for that dinner here in Las Vegas. So you gotta, I'll send you a message with my cell phone number so that we can stay in touch and make it happen. Cause I wanna, when you see quality people, here's an advice for anybody listening. When you know that you're around quality people, people that lead with their heart and people that are of service, right? That are not transactional, but are intentional, hold on to them. Hold on to them and find the best ways to add value to their life so that you can develop a better relationship. Because at the end of the day, besides psychology and mindset, business is just another form of building relationships.
100%. I mean, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast. Yes, to share the knowledge, but also because I'm just here to learn. I'm just a student of the game, and everything that you've been saying, right? Like I'm just learning, like up in here, and now I'm gonna take what I learned, probably look back at this, and like, man, I need to apply everything JJ was saying, and maybe, and sometimes it's also just a reminder for myself, even though a lot of the things I do know. A famous quote that I like to use all the time is from a guy named Alex Hormozy. He says that sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And so having these conversations reminds me of a lot of the things that I learned already. And now sometimes I circle back to what I learned. I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do. Thank JJ for the reminder. And then this is how I proceed and elevate my life, my circumstances, my wealth, and just anything and everything. So again, I just want to say again, thank you so much. Appreciate you for everything you've taught and all the wisdom that you have and being so open about your story. Thank you so much. And I guess just end it off. Where can people find you on social media?
Beautiful. I appreciate you kindly, really, like from the bottom of my heart. For anybody that wants to find me on social media, I'm most active on Instagram, and you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is the real JJ Villar, right? Because I didn't know there was a whole bunch of JJ Villars out there, but yeah, so I have at the real JJ Villar, and then also my website is jjvillarcoaching.com. So also, if you Google my name, you'll find out more or less everything from the entertainment side, and now is starting more on the personal development side. But that's where you can find more information about me. And one thing that I do want to close off with, apart from paying my respects to you, taking so much time, to talk to me and add value, not only to my life, but hopefully to you and your listeners in your podcast, I want to actually show something that people might ask themselves, well, how do you build relationships and how do you go about creating a business, when you don't really know how? And I want to do this live in real time so that people can understand the importance of adding value to others. In this conversation, you mentioned something that I look upon you, regardless whether you're 25 and I'm 43, I look at somebody like yourself who's achieved, making up towards, you said like 90K a month or whatever. I don't know if it's consistent, if it was a one-time, one-off, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the fact that you had the ability, skills, and the know-how to make that happen, and you have a proof of concept, means that you know how to do something to get to that level. You also mentioned here that, we're reminding each other of things that we may know and have forgotten or don't really implement, or like you said, you're always a student. I'm always a student. In order to stay active and relevant in business, you always have to remain being a student, right? That's one of the most powerful things, so here I want to do this in real time so people can actually model this. And this has worked for me for years. I'll say this, Rowell, if there's anything that I can do to always and add more value to you, your life, or your listeners, or your community, by all means, don't hesitate to ask. The only thing that I ask for in return is your friendship and your knowledge on how I can extract information that I could potentially model whatever it is that you're doing, because I would love to. I'm not there yet, making 90K a month or whatnot. I've hit my great months, but I've never exceeded that. I've hit a ceiling that doesn't exist, but that's why I'm around powerful people. And I wanted to do this so that people can see what it takes. It takes the willingness to want to add value to somebody else with no expectation in return. And with that, we'll close out and say, I'm excited to be part of your journey, hear more about your life, and see how I can add more value to your life.
And same thing goes on my end. Anything you need from me, anything you want to learn about, especially marketing, that's because that's my specialty. I'm down to help you, get you going, because I feel like what you have to offer is so amazing, and what you're doing already is already helping a lot of people. And we need more leaders. Honestly, that's what I really believe. We need more leaders. Just like yourself, just like me, out there helping more and more people. So if I can help you in the marketing sense, get you out there, get people to know who you are and what you do and how you can help them, then that's my way of like helping other people as well. So again, man, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And again, this was a longer podcast than usual, but honestly, I was hooked. If I'm a viewer, I don't know about you, if I'm a viewer, I would be hooked, because the conversation was just super amazing, and I would definitely listen back to this. Well, JJ, thank you so much, and that's the end of our podcast. And hey, if you want JJ to come back on, I'm sure you do. But actually, it doesn't even matter, because he's gonna be back on, because I want him here. So it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. So he's gonna be back on anyways. But hey, you want to type it in the comments so he knows. So it feels good to know. Then type that in the comments. But anyways, thank you so much, and that's it for episode number 6.